Two dachshunds, same age, same breeder, same food. One of them is still charging up the garden at 11 with a straight, easy top line. The other started struggling at 5. The difference between those two dogs was not luck, and it wasn't the expensive stuff either. No supplement, no orthopedic bed, no special vet. It came down to about 5 ordinary decisions repeated a few thousand times, and every one of them was made at home for free by somebody who had no idea it mattered. So here are the 5. Not stairs and sofas. You already know those, and honestly, they're about a fifth of the picture. These are the ones nobody tells you. And there's a reason they matter more in this breed than in almost any other. The discs that cushion a dachshund's back don't age the way they do in other dogs. They harden early, often well before the second birthday. That part is genetics, and you can't undo it. Everything that happens on top of it is not genetics. It's daily handling, daily movement, daily food, and all of it is yours to change starting tonight. That's why these 5 work, whether your dachshund is 9 weeks old or 9 years old. Number 3 quietly fixes about half of the behavior problems people write to us about. And number 4 is the one almost everybody gets backwards. Stay with me. Secret 1. Muscle protects the back. Bubble wrap doesn't. Here's where a lot of loving owners go wrong. They hear long back, fragile spine, and they respond by shrinking their dachshund's world. Short walks, carry them everywhere, discourage running. And it feels protective, but it's the opposite, because the structure holding a dachshund's spine in a safe position is not the bones, it's the muscle wrapped around them. Core muscle, back muscle, hind end muscle. A soft, under-exercised dachshund is carrying that famous long back on scaffolding that's been left to rot. What a dachshund needs is volume of the right kind of movement. Steady, flat, sustained walking on a leash. Sniff-heavy walks where they're moving at a consistent trot rather than sprinting in bursts. Gentle inclines, a grassy slope, a long ramp. Walking uphill is one of the cheapest hind-end strengtheners in existence, and most dachshunds love it. Swimming, if that's available to you, is close to perfect. Now the part almost nobody says out loud. The enemy of a dachshund's back is not distance, it's torque, it's twist. It's the sharp pivot when they spin to chase a squirrel on a slick floor. It's the wrestling match with the neighbor's Labrador where a body 4 times the size lands a paw across their spine. It's tug of war played side to side instead of straight back. It's the landing off the sofa, which is far more dangerous than the jump up. Distance builds them, twist breaks them. Which brings me to the 2 things in your house that are silently working against you right now. The first is your floor. Smooth tile, laminate, polished wood. Every time your dachshund's feet slide out from under them, the spine absorbs that scramble. Runners and rugs along the routes they actually use, the hallway, the path to the door, the landing zone by the couch, cost very little and change everything. And trim the fur between their paw pads, because on a smooth floor, that fur turns their feet into slippers. The second is their nails. This one is genuinely underrated. When a dachshund's nails are long enough to touch the ground while standing, the toes are forced backward, and the whole stance shifts. Weight moves off the front, the top line changes, and that load has to go somewhere. It goes into the back. Short nails and rugs on the floor will do more for your dog's spine this year than any supplement on the shelf. And while we're here, lift them properly. One hand under the chest, one hand supporting the hindquarters, spine level like you're carrying a rolled-up newspaper you don't want to bend. Never under the front legs alone with the back half swinging. Teach that to every child and every visitor in your house, because the one time it's done wrong tends to be the time it counts. Quick one. If your dachshund is barking, having potty accidents, ignoring you, or you're worried about their back, I put everything that actually works into a 30-day plan to protect their back, master potty training, and stop stubborn behavior. 1 printable page a day, 15 minutes, no experience needed. Links in the description. Let's continue. Secret 2. 20 minutes of nose beats an hour of legs. If your dachshund is restless in the evening, barks at nothing, redecorates the sofa cushions, or paces while you're trying to watch something, the instinct is to walk them more, walk them further, tire out the legs. And it half works, which is the trap, because you end up with a fitter dog who is still bored. A dachshund's brain is built around scent. That nose is doing constant, detailed, high-resolution work, and when it isn't given a job, it doesn't switch off, it just gets aimed at your skirting boards. Here's the thing that surprises people the first time they try it. Focused sniffing physically calms a dog. Nose work drops arousal, lowers heart rate, and satisfies in a way that legs never will. 20 minutes of real scent work will settle a dachshund more deeply than an hour of fetch, and it barely costs you a thing. So try this tonight. Take a handful of their dinner kibble and scatter it across a room or across the grass outside and let them hunt it down. That's it. That's the whole exercise, and it works from the very first attempt. Next, replace at least one walk a week with what people call a sniffari. Same leash, longer line if you have it, but your dachshund chooses the route and you don't rush a single stop. You might cover a quarter of your usual distance. They'll come home more satisfied than they've been in months. Then build up. Hide treats under upturned cups and let them work it out. Roll a treat inside a towel and let them unroll it. Get a snuffle mat and feed at least one meal a day out of it instead of a bowl, because a dachshund is a hunting brain, and a bowl of food that requires nothing gives that brain absolutely nothing to do. Then teach a real find it cue. Hold them back, let them watch you place a treat, release them with the word, repeat until the word alone sends them searching. Now you have a portable off switch you can use in a waiting room, in a hotel, or on a rainy day when a walk isn't happening. This one secret alone tends to reduce the barking, the digging in the wrong places, and the general low-grade frustration that so many dachshund owners have simply accepted as breed personality.
Secret 3. Stop training your dachshund like a Labrador. Your dachshund is not stubborn. I know it looks exactly like stubbornness. You call, they hear you, they glance over, they carry on. You give a cue they definitely know, and they look at you like they're waiting for a better offer. And honestly, they are. Dachshunds were developed to work independently, out of sight and out of earshot of a person, making their own decisions with no handler to consult. That is a fundamentally different mental wiring from a dog bred to watch a human's face and wait for instructions. So, a dachshund runs the maths, what you're offering versus what's already happening. If what's already happening is more interesting, you lose. That's not defiance. That's the job they were designed for. Once you accept that, training gets dramatically easier because you stop trying to win obedience and start trying to win the negotiation. 3 changes. First, never repeat a cue. If you say come 4 times, you've taught them that come means the 4th one. Say it once, and if nothing happens, go and help them get it right, then pay generously. Second, raise your currency. Dry biscuits do not compete with a fresh scent trail. Real chicken, cheese, a scrap of sardine. Save the good stuff exclusively for recall and for the situations where you actually need to win, and your recall stops being a suggestion. Third, keep sessions short. 3 minutes, 4 or 5 times a day, always ending while they're still keen. A dachshund who is drilled for 20 minutes simply checks out, and once they've checked out, you're teaching them that tuning you out works. And one rule that changes everything. Never call your dachshund to you for something they dislike. Not for nail trims, not for baths, not for the end of a walk. Go and get them for those. Every time you use the recall word to deliver something unpleasant, you devalue the word. And with a dog this good at cost-benefit analysis, you can't afford it. Secret 4. 1 pound. This is the one people get backwards because it sounds like the least serious item on the list, and it's arguably the most important. On a dachshund, a single extra pound is not a single extra pound. Proportionally, on a body that small, it's the equivalent of a significant amount of extra weight on a person. And unlike a person,
That weight sits along a long, unsupported span with a row of already compromised discs underneath it. Extra body weight on a Dachshund doesn't just make them slower, it loads the exact structure that's most vulnerable. It makes the muscle work from Secret 1 harder to do, and it turns every jump, every twist, and every slippery scramble into a bigger event. Stop judging by eye, because we all adjust to what we see every day. Use your hands instead. Run your fingertips flat along their ribs with light pressure. You should feel each rib clearly, with a thin covering over it, not sharp and bare, but definitely there without pressing. Then look down at them from above while they're standing. You want a visible waist behind the ribs. From the side, the belly should tuck up rather than run flat and parallel to the ground. The reason Dachshunds gain so easily is that they're small enough for the maths to run away from you. On a body this size, a couple of dental sticks and a few training treats can quietly account for a serious chunk of the day's food. So do this instead. Measure the daily food, take a portion of it out of the container before you feed, and use that portion as your training and enrichment currency through the day. Same food, same total, but now the scatter feeding, the snuffle mat, and the recall training are all paid for out of the existing budget. Ask your vet for a target weight and a body condition check, and weigh at home if you can. Lean is the single greatest gift you can give this specific breed. Secret 5. They live 5 inches off the ground. Everything about a Dachshund's day is happening in a narrow band of air right above the surface, and that changes what the world does to them. In summer, warm asphalt burns more than paws. Their chest and belly ride inches above the ground, and heat radiating from pavement hits them in a way it never hits a taller dog. Press the back of your hand to the ground and hold it. If you can't sit through several seconds comfortably, it's too hot for that low body, and it's a grass or early morning day. In winter and rain, the same geometry runs in reverse. Cold and wet transfer straight into the chest, and a smooth-coated Dachshund in particular has very little between skin and weather down there. So if you're buying a coat, make sure it actually covers the chest and wraps under the belly, rather than draping over the back like a cape. And then there's what they do indoors. That instinct to tunnel under a duvet, burrow to the bottom of the bed, dig at a blanket and rearrange it before settling isn't a quirk to be trained out. It's a deep, self-soothing behavior, and Dachshunds who can't do it anywhere else often start doing it to your furniture instead. So give it a legal home, a cave-style bed, or simply a folded blanket they're allowed to destroy, kept in the spot where they actually settle. Outdoors, a dig box, a shallow container of soil or sand with a few treats buried in it, will save your flower beds and delight them in a way very little else does. One safety note that goes with all of this: if your Dachshund is buried under a blanket, never scoop them up blind or pull them by the body. Uncover first, then lift with 2 hands as we covered earlier. And tell everyone in the house that a lump under a throw might not be a cushion. Rugs, short nails, sustained walking and no twisting. A nose with a daily job. Training built around negotiation instead of authority. A visible waist. And a life designed for a dog living 5 inches off the ground. None of that requires a bigger house, a bigger budget, or more hours in your day. It requires noticing. And a Dachshund is exactly the kind of dog who rewards being noticed, because so much of what looks like stubbornness, hyperactivity, or fragility is really just a very specialized animal trying to do the job it was built for in a living room. Pick one, just one tonight. If you're not sure which one, start with the scatter feed because you'll see the difference in about 10 minutes. Then tell me in the comments which one you chose and how your Dachshund reacted, because we read every single one and those replies shape what we cover next. If this was useful, subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and give your Dachshund a scratch from us.